It was Halloween night, 9:47 p.m., and I found my daughter's diary lying open on our kitchen counter next to her overflowing candy bag. The first line I read made me drop her leftover Snickers bar. Mom doesn't know Dad has another family, but I do. Tonight, when we went trick-or-treating, we stopped at their house and Dad kissed the other lady like he kisses Mom. My 8-year-old daughter, writing about her father's secret family on Halloween night, like it was just another costume he wore. My name is Harper. I'm 29 years old, married to Derek for 8 years, and mother to our daughter Willow. We live in a suburban neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona, where Derek works as a financial advisor and I manage social media for local businesses. But apparently, the life I thought we were living was just another Halloween mask. I had been cleaning up after our neighborhood trick-or-treating adventure. Derek had taken Willow around the block while I handed out candy to the endless parade of costumed kids. They'd returned an hour ago, Willow chattering excitedly about all the houses they'd visited. Derek unusually quiet. Now I knew why. Willow's diary was open to a page decorated with Halloween stickers, her childish handwriting telling a story that made my blood run cold. But what I found that night changed everything. Dad took me to a house with really good decorations. There was a pretty lady there dressed like a witch, and she had a baby dressed like a pumpkin. Dad said the baby is my little brother, but it's a secret because it would make Mom sad. The witch lady is named Chloe, and the baby is named Parker. My hands started shaking. Chloe, Parker. Names I'd never heard. People who knew my husband well enough to include him in their Halloween plans. Dad hugged Chloe and kissed her like how he kisses Mom. Then he picked up baby Parker and called him Buddy, like he calls me Princess. Chloe gave me extra candy and said I'm the best big sister ever. I didn't know I was a big sister. My intuition was right, even if it hurt. The pieces started falling into place. All those late evenings Derek had been working. All those weekend client meetings that kept getting longer. All those times he checked his phone and quickly put it away when I entered the room. He hadn't been working late. He'd been living a double life. And tonight, on Halloween, the night when everyone wears masks and pretends to be someone else, my husband had let our daughter see who he really was. The man who had taken our 8-year-old trick-or-treating to his mistress's house, who had kissed another woman in front of our child, who had a son I'd never met. From that moment on, nothing felt the same. As I read Willow's innocent account of discovering her father's deception, I realized the most terrifying thing of all. This wasn't a Halloween horror story. This was my real life. And the monster wasn't wearing a costume. He was wearing my wedding ring. Let me tell you who I was before Halloween night revealed the monster I'd been living with. I was the mom who handmade Willow's costumes every year. This year, she was a unicorn princess with a horn I'd crafted from paper towel rolls and glitter. I was the wife who still left cute notes in Derek's laptop bag. I was the woman who posted Instagram stories of our perfect family moments that apparently weren't so perfect after all. I was living in a beautiful lie, and I didn't even know it. Derek and I met 7 years ago at a coffee shop in Tempe. I was building my social media consulting business, working 16-hour days from my laptop. He was a junior financial advisor with big dreams and a smile that could sell ice to penguins. "You're gonna run your own agency someday," he'd say, watching me edit client content at 11 p.m. Phoenix won't know what hit it. We got married 2 years later in a desert ceremony that looked perfect on social media. My dress was Instagram-worthy. Derek cried during our vows, and our hashtag Harper and Derek say I do you trended locally for 3 days. Willow came along 3 years after that. Derek was obsessed with her from day one, constantly taking photos, making videos, posting about being a girl dad. He was the father who never missed a dance recital, who knew all the words to Frozen, who built blanket forts that looked like architectural marvels. Sometimes losing is how you win. For 5 years, we were the family everyone envied. The couple who still held hands at school pickup. The parents who coordinated Halloween costumes and threw birthday parties that other families tried to copy. But sitting in my kitchen, reading my daughter's diary by the light of our jack-o'-lantern, I realized it had all been performance art. "Mommy?" Willow's voice drifted down from upstairs. "Can I have one more piece of candy?" "Just one, baby," I called back, my voice somehow steady. "Then brush your teeth." How was I supposed to look at her tomorrow morning? How was I supposed to pretend everything was normal when she'd been carrying Derek's secrets like trick-or-treat candy in a bag? I kept reading, even though every word felt like a knife. Last week, Dad took me to Target and we saw Chloe and Parker in the baby clothes section. Chloe was buying Halloween costumes. Dad helped her carry everything to her car, and they talked for a long time. Parker held my finger and smiled at me. Dad looked really happy. And in that instant, my plan began to form. Target. Our Target. Where I shopped every weekend. Where Derek had supposedly been taking Willow for daddy-daughter errands while I worked on client campaigns. How many times had they run into his other family? How many times had my daughter played with her half-brother while I sat at home, building social media strategies for other people's businesses, believing my husband was just being a good father? Chloe asked Dad if I could come to Parker's first birthday party next month. Dad said maybe, but we'd have to keep it secret from Mom. I asked why everything has to be secret, and Dad said sometimes grown-ups have to keep secrets to protect people they love. The manipulation was so insidious. Derek had taught our daughter that lying to me was an act of love, that keeping his betrayal secret was protecting me. He'd weaponized her kindness against me. After tonight's trick-or-treating adventure, Willow had seen Derek kiss another woman, had watched him play father to another child, had been told it was all normal, all secret, all necessary to keep Mommy from being sad. My intuition was right, even if it hurt. But I wasn't sad anymore. I was furious, because Derek hadn't just betrayed our marriage. He'd corrupted our daughter's understanding of truth, love, and family. He'd made her an accomplice to his deception, and tonight, on Halloween, when the whole world was pretending to be something else, he'd let her see his real face. The face of a man who could look his wife in the eye every morning while building a life with someone else. The face of a father who would use his own child as a cover story. The face of a monster who didn't need a costume. The next morning, November 1st, I watched Derek differently. He came downstairs at 7:15 a.m., already dressed for work, scrolling through his phone with a coffee mug that read, "World's Best Dad." The irony was nauseating. "How's my favorite girl?" he asked, kissing the top of Willow's head as she ate her cereal. "Good. Daddy, last night was so fun. I got so much candy." Derek's smile faltered for just a microsecond. "Yeah, Princess, it was really fun." But I caught it. The tiny pause, the flicker of guilt. But what I found that night changed everything. "Tell Mommy about all the houses we visited," I said casually, pouring myself coffee I didn't want. "Which one had the best decorations?" Willow's eyes went wide and she glanced at Derek. Even at 8 years old, she understood the trap. The house with the big spider was cool." "What about that house with the witch decorations?" I pressed gently. "The one with all the purple lights?" Derek's coffee mug clinked against the granite countertop. "I don't remember that one," he said quickly. "Oh," Willow said, her voice small. "That house was pretty." The lie hung in our kitchen like smoke. My 8-year-old daughter was covering for her father's affair, and Derek was letting her do it. After I dropped Willow at school, I tried a different approach. "How was trick-or-treating last night?" I asked Derek over dinner. "You guys were gone for a while." "Just hit a lot of houses. You know how Willow is. She wanted to see every decoration in the neighborhood. Did you run into anyone we know? Derek's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Anyone we know? You know, neighbors, friends from school. Halloween's always such a social thing. No, he said too quickly. Just strangers. Just trick-or-treating. The eyes can lie, but routine never does. More lies. Easy, practiced lies that told me this deception had been going on for much longer than one Halloween night. Derek, can we talk about our finances? I said, shifting tactics. I've been thinking about expanding my business, maybe hiring an assistant. I should understand our budget better. His shoulders tensed immediately. Our finances are fine, Harper. You don't need to worry about that stuff. I'm not worried. I just want to be more involved. Maybe we could look at our accounts together this weekend? Why do you need to see our accounts? The defensiveness in his voice was immediate and telling. Because I'm your wife? Because I contribute to our household income? Because I have a right to know where our money goes? Derek stood up from the table, his chair scraping against our hardwood floors. You've been acting weird since Halloween. What's going on with you? From that moment on, nothing felt the same. Nothing's going on with me. I'm just asking normal questions that a wife asks her husband. They don't feel normal. They feel suspicious. Suspicious. He was turning this around on me, making me the villain for questioning him. Should I be suspicious, Derek? The question hung between us like a challenge. Derek stared at me, and for the first time in 8 years of marriage, I felt like I was looking at a complete stranger. I can't believe you're asking me that. I can't believe I have to. That night, Derek went to bed early, claiming he had an early client meeting. But I heard him in our bathroom, texting someone at 11:30 p.m. I lay awake, staring at our ceiling, thinking about Halloween night, about Willow's diary entries, about the casual way she wrote about Daddy's other family. This wasn't a recent development. This had been going on for months, maybe longer. Derek had been living a double life, and he'd trained our daughter to help him maintain it. And in that instant, my plan began to form. Tomorrow, while Derek was at his client meeting and Willow was at school, I was going to find proof. Bank statements, phone records, anything that would show me the scope of his deception. Because if Derek thought he could use Halloween as cover for introducing our daughter to his mistress, he was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. The trusting wife who made handcrafted unicorn costumes was about to become a detective. And what I was going to discover would make Willow's diary look like a children's book. I called in sick the next day, something I hadn't done in over a year. Food poisoning, I told my biggest client, Rebecca. Must have been the Halloween candy. I'll be back on track tomorrow. But I wasn't sick. I was about to systematically investigate my own husband. After Derek left for his early client meeting and I dropped Willow at school, I came home and stood in our master bedroom with new eyes. Everything looked the same. Our king-sized bed with the matching nightstands, the walk-in closet we'd organized together last spring, the bathroom where Derek got ready every morning while telling me about his day. But everything felt contaminated by lies. I started with Derek's nightstand. Top drawer, charging cables, business cards, receipts from gas stations. Second drawer, old bills, some cash, expired warranties. Bottom drawer, a small wooden box I'd never seen before. My intuition was right, even if it hurt. Inside the box, a second phone. An iPhone with a cracked screen that wasn't on our family plan. My hands shaking, I powered it on. No password protection. Derek's first mistake. The phone contained everything I needed to understand the scope of his betrayal. Text messages with Chloe dating back 8 months, photos of a baby boy who looked exactly like Derek, videos of first steps, first words, first Halloween costume. Derek had been documenting another child's life while I thought he was working late. But the messages were what broke my heart completely. Can't wait to see you both tonight. Parker's getting so big. Derek, 2 weeks ago. Missing my boys. Tell Parker Daddy loves him. Derek, last month. My boys. Parker wasn't just Derek's son, he was Derek's priority. But what I found that night changed everything. I kept scrolling, finding conversations that made me physically sick. When are you going to tell Harper? Chloe, 3 months ago. Soon. I just need to find the right time. Willow's getting attached to Parker and I don't want to disrupt her life. Derek's response. Willow's getting attached. My daughter had been visiting this woman and baby for months, building relationships while I worked late building my business. I hate lying to her, but Harper's not ready for this conversation. Derek, 6 weeks ago. Not ready. As if this was my fault for not being emotionally prepared for his betrayal. The photos were worse than the messages. Derek and Chloe at Target, Parker in a shopping cart. Derek and Chloe at the park, Willow pushing Parker on a baby swing. Derek and Chloe at a restaurant, looking like a family, looking happier than I'd seen Derek in months. From that moment on, nothing felt the same. In our home office, I found Derek's laptop left open, his second mistake. His browser history told the story of a man planning a future I wasn't part of. Searches for how to tell your wife about another child, articles about blended families and co-parenting arrangements. Real estate, listings for 3-bedroom houses in neighborhoods I'd never heard of. Derek wasn't just having an affair, he was planning his exit strategy. But the most damning evidence was in his email drafts. An unsent message to his brother. I think I'm ready to leave Harper. Chloe and Parker need me full-time, and I can't keep splitting myself between 2 families. Willow will understand when she's older. Another unsent email to a divorce attorney. My wife doesn't know about my son yet. I need to understand my options before I tell her. Derek had been planning to leave me for months, but he'd been too cowardly to have the conversation, so he'd used our daughter as a bridge between his 2 lives. And in that instant, my plan began to form. By the time I finished documenting everything, I understood Derek's strategy completely. He was slowly transitioning from our family to theirs, using Willow to maintain connections while avoiding difficult conversations. But Derek had made a critical error in judgment. He'd underestimated me. While he'd been planning his secret exit, I'd been building a successful business, developing professional relationships, creating financial independence. I didn't need Derek. I'd just been choosing him. And after today's discoveries, I was choosing differently. The silent observation phase was over. Now came the chess game. And unlike Derek, I wasn't going to play it in secret. I didn't confront Derek that evening. Instead, I did something much more strategic. I tested him. Derek, I said over dinner while Willow colored her homework worksheet. I've been thinking about Thanksgiving. Maybe we could do something special this year? His fork stopped moving. Thanksgiving? You know, like rent a cabin in Flagstaff? Make it a real family getaway? Just the 3 of us. I don't know, Harper. Work's been crazy. Maybe we should keep it simple this year. Work's been crazy. This from a man who'd spent his Halloween night at another woman's house. But what I found that night changed everything. What if I booked something anyway? Surprise you both? No. His response was too sharp, too immediate. I mean, let's plan it together. Make sure the timing works. Willow looked up from her coloring. Can we invite Chloe and Parker? The silence that followed was deafening. Derek's face went white, then red, then a sick shade of gray. Who, sweetie? I asked gently, already knowing the answer. Chloe and Parker, from Halloween night. Parker's really little, but he's so cute, and Chloe makes really good cookies. Derek looked like he might throw up. Willow, honey, they have their own family plans. But aren't we family too? Willow asked innocently. You said Parker's my brother. The eyes can lie, but routine never does. I watched Derek scramble, trying to find words that wouldn't make him a liar in front of our daughter while also not revealing the truth to me. Sometimes families are complicated, Princess, he said finally. That's what you always say when I ask questions about them. Derek's coffee mug clinked against his plate. He was trapped, and he knew it. After Willow went to bed, I escalated my testing. Derek, who are Chloe and Parker? He was quiet for a long moment, clearly calculating how much he could deny. Just people we ran into on Halloween. People Willow seems to know pretty well. She's friendly. You know how she is with kids. She called Parker her brother. Derek rubbed his face with his hands. Kids say things. They have active imaginations. My intuition was right, even if it hurt. Show me your phone, I said quietly. What? Your phone. Show me your messages, your photos, your call log. Why would you want to see my phone? Because my daughter just asked if we could invite strangers to Thanksgiving, and you're acting like you're hiding something. Derek stood up from our couch, pacing to the window. I'm not hiding anything. I just think it's weird that you don't trust me. I think it's weird that you won't show me your phone. The manipulation was textbook. Turn the tables, make me the paranoid wife, trigger my guilt for not trusting him blindly. But I'd seen his second phone. I'd read his messages with Chloe. I'd found his emails to divorce attorneys. Derek, I'm going to ask you one more time. Who are Chloe and Parker? From that moment on, nothing felt the same. He was quiet. For so long I thought he might actually tell the truth. They're friends, he said finally. Chloe's a single mom I met through work. Her son is cute and Willow likes playing big sister. That's all. More lies. Smooth, practiced lies that showed me exactly how long he'd been deceiving me. A single mom? Yeah. Her ex left when Parker was born. She's been struggling, and I've been helping her out sometimes. You know, just being neighborly. Helping her out how? Derek's pause was too long. Just advice. Financial planning stuff. It's what I do. Is that why you've been working late so often? Sometimes. She needs a lot of guidance. The lies were so easy for him, so natural. I wondered how many others I'd believed over the years. I'd like to meet her, I said simply. Derek's face went ashen. Meet her? If you're helping her with financial planning and Willow's gotten so attached to Parker, maybe we should all get together. Have them over for dinner. That's not necessary. Why not? Because it would be awkward. Professional boundaries and all. And in that instant, my plan began to form. Derek, I said quietly, are you having an affair? The question hung in our living room like smoke. Derek stared at me, and I watched 8 years of marriage collapse in real time. How can you ask me that? Because you won't show me your phone. Because you're lying about working late. Because our daughter knows another woman's child well enough to call him her brother. Derek opened his mouth, then closed it. No words came out, and that's when I knew for certain. The man I'd married was gone. In his place was a stranger who'd been using our daughter to maintain his lies. Derek left that night without saying where he was going, just grabbed his keys and disappeared into the November darkness. He came back at 2:30 a.m. I know because I was awake, sitting in our living room, holding his second phone. Harper? His voice was small, defeated. Are you up? I turned on the lamp beside me. He looked like hell. Exhausted, scared, like a man who'd spent hours trying to figure out how to explain the unexplainable. We need to talk, he said. Yes, we do. I held up his secret phone. You left this in your nightstand. Derek's face crumpled. You went through my things. I went through our house. Everything in this house belongs to both of us, Derek, including the truth. He sat across from me, as far away as possible. The physical distance felt appropriate. But what I found that night, changed everything. How much do you know? He asked. Everything. Chloe. Parker. 8 months of lies. The apartment you've been paying for. The fact that you've been planning to leave me. Derek put his head in his hands. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far. You have a son. You've been living a double life. You've been using our daughter as your cover story. Willow wasn't supposed to know. I never meant for her to get involved. But she is involved. She's been playing with your son for months. She thinks lying to me is normal. You've corrupted her understanding of family. My intuition was right, even if it hurt. Derek was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. I met Chloe 10 months ago. She was a client, young, divorced, struggling financially after her ex abandoned her when she got pregnant. And you were married with a daughter. I was unhappy, Harper. I felt trapped, like my life was over at 35. Chloe made me feel alive again. So you lied to her too? Derek looked up sharply. What do you mean? She thinks you're divorced, doesn't she? That's why she's been planning a future with you. His silence was confirmation enough. How long before you told her you had a daughter? 3 months, when things got serious. And when did you start bringing Willow to see them? 5 months ago. Chloe wanted to meet her, and I thought if they got along, it would make the transition easier. The transition to what? Derek was quiet again, but I already knew. I'd seen his browser history, his email drafts, his apartment searches. From that moment on, nothing felt the same. I was going to leave, he admitted finally, after the holidays. I was going to ask for a divorce and move in with Chloe and Parker. Without ever telling me about them. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to explain that I'd fallen in love with someone else, that I had another child. So you were just going to disappear? Not disappear. I was going to be honest. Eventually. The word eventually hung between us like poison. What about Willow? She loves Parker. She loves Chloe. I thought she'd be excited about having a brother, about our families blending together. The delusion was breathtaking. Derek had convinced himself that our 8-year-old daughter would be thrilled to learn her father had been lying to her mother for 8 months. Derek, do you understand what you've done? You've taught our daughter that lying is love, that keeping secrets from me is protecting me, that families are built on deception. And in that instant, my plan began to form. Derek started crying then. Real tears, the kind I hadn't seen since Willow was born, but I felt nothing. The woman who used to comfort him, who used to make his problems disappear, was gone. I want to fix this, he whispered. I want to save our marriage. How? I'll end it with Chloe. I'll stop seeing Parker. We can go to counseling, start over. I stared at him in amazement. You want to abandon your 6-month-old son? If that's what it takes. And that's when I understood the most important thing of all. Derek wasn't a man who had made a mistake. He was a man who collected people and discarded them when they became inconvenient. First me. Now potentially Chloe and Parker. He would sacrifice anyone to avoid consequences, including our daughter, who he'd already turned into an accomplice to his betrayal. The man I'd married, the man I thought I'd married, had never existed. This was who Derek really was, and I was done pretending otherwise. Derek slept in our guest room after that night. We didn't discuss it. We just began moving around each other like polite strangers sharing the same house. But while Derek sulked and waited for me to forgive him, I was building my strategy. I contacted Sarah Matthews, the best family law attorney in Phoenix, and scheduled a consultation. This is completely confidential, I told her assistant. I need someone who specializes in cases involving child manipulation. I also opened my own bank account at a different bank, one Derek had never used. It was something I should have done years ago, but better late than never. But what I found that night changed everything. Most importantly, I started documenting everything in real time. Every lie Derek told about working late, every time he checked his secret phone, every conversation where Willow mentioned Chloe and Parker. I created a detailed log of Derek's behavior, backed up by screenshots from his phone and photos of his browser history. But the hardest part was protecting Willow from the emotional fallout while gathering evidence of how Derek had manipulated her. "Mommy," she said one evening while I helped her with reading homework, "are you and Daddy fighting?" The question made my chest tight. "Why do you ask, sweetheart?" "You don't smile at each other anymore, and Daddy looks sad all the time." My intuition was right, even if it hurt. I set down her book and really looked at my daughter. 8 years old with Derek's dark hair and my stubborn chin, too perceptive for her own good. "Sometimes grown-ups have problems they need to work through," I said carefully. "But no matter what happens between Daddy and me, we both love you more than anything. That will never change." "Is it because of Chloe and Parker?" The casual way she said their names still took my breath away. "Willow, how long have you known Chloe and Parker?" She looked down at her homework, suddenly very interested in her reading worksheet. "Since the summer. Daddy said they were our special friends, but it was important to keep them secret so you wouldn't worry." "And what do you think about keeping that secret?" Willow was quiet for a long time, erasing and re-erasing the same word. "I think secrets make my tummy feel funny," she said finally. "But Daddy said sometimes people have to keep secrets to protect people they love." From that moment on, nothing felt the same. The psychological manipulation was sophisticated and devastating. Derek had taught our daughter that protecting his lies was an act of love. "Willow, listen to me carefully," I said, pulling her into my lap. "It's never your job to keep secrets that make you feel bad. If a grown-up asks you to keep a secret that makes your tummy feel funny, you tell another grown-up you trust, okay?" She nodded, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. Derek had done his work thoroughly. That night, I wrote 3 letters. The first was to Derek's parents in Tucson. Good. People who deserved to know what their son had been doing. They had a right to understand why their daughter-in-law was about to file for divorce. The second was to Chloe. She deserved to know that the man she thought was divorced was actually very much married. She deserved to know that her relationship was built on lies from the very beginning. The third was to myself. A letter acknowledging the woman I used to be, trusting, accommodating, willing to ignore red flags to maintain peace, and a promise to the woman I was becoming that I would never again make myself small to accommodate someone else's deception. And in that instant, my plan began to form. I sealed all 3 letters but didn't mail them yet. Timing would be crucial, because I'd learned something important during those quiet days of planning. I wasn't just leaving Derek. I was choosing myself, choosing my daughter, choosing truth over comfortable lies. For the first time in my adult life, I was making decisions based on what we needed, not what Derek wanted. The scared woman who'd found Willow's diary on Halloween night was transforming into someone Derek had never met. Someone who couldn't be manipulated, controlled, or lied to. Someone who was about to show him exactly what happened when you used a mother's love against her own child. Someone who was finally ready to fight back. And this time, I wasn't going to lose. The transformation happened in moments so small, Derek almost missed them. It happened when I stopped asking his permission to spend money from our joint account. It happened when I realized I'd been living like a guest in my own marriage. It happened when I understood that the woman Derek had fallen in love with, accommodating, trusting, willing to ignore obvious lies, was gone forever. But what I found that night changed everything. "Harper, we need to talk." Derek approached me one evening while I was editing social media content for a client. "I'm working," I said without looking up from my laptop. This is more important than work. No, Derek. This is my career. And right now, my career is more important than whatever you want to discuss. 6 months ago, I would have immediately closed my laptop to give him my full attention. The new me kept typing. I want to fix our marriage, he said, sitting across from me at our kitchen island. I want to make this work. I saved my document and finally looked at him. How? I'll end it with Chloe completely. I'll stop seeing Parker. I'll close down the apartment. Focus entirely on our family. You'll abandon your 6-month-old son? If that's what you want. My intuition was right, even if it hurt. The ease with which Derek was willing to discard Parker told me everything I needed to know about his character. This wasn't a man who had made a mistake. This was a man who collected people and threw them away when they became inconvenient. What about Chloe? I asked. She's built her life around the belief that you're going to marry her. That's not my problem anymore. Call her, I said quietly. What? I pulled out my phone. Call Chloe right now. Tell her about me and Willow. Tell her you've been lying to her for 8 months. Derek's face went pale. Harper, I can't just... You can't just what? Tell the truth? Be honest for once in your adult life? It would destroy her. And what have you done to me? From that moment on, nothing felt the same. Derek stared at me, and I could see him realizing that his standard manipulation tactics weren't working anymore. The woman sitting across from him wasn't the accommodating wife who used to smooth over his problems. That weekend, while Derek took Willow to what he claimed was a father-daughter movie, but was obviously another visit to Chloe's apartment, I mailed 2 of the 3 letters. The letter to his parents went certified mail. They deserved to know why their daughter-in-law was about to file for divorce. The letter to Chloe was more difficult to write, but necessary. I told her the truth about Derek's marriage, about Willow, about the lies he'd been telling both of us. I included copies of our marriage certificate and photos from Derek's secret phone. By Monday morning, Derek's carefully constructed world started crumbling. His phone began ringing at 7:30 a.m. His mother demanding explanations. His father disappointed and angry. His brother wanting to understand how Derek could do this to such a good woman. And in that instant, my plan began to form. At 11:45 a.m., my phone rang. Is this Harper? A young woman's voice, shaky and emotional. Yes. This is Chloe. I got your letter. My heart started pounding. Chloe, how are you? I'm not okay. She was crying. I'm really not okay. Can we meet? I need to understand what's been happening. 2 hours later, I sat across from Chloe at a coffee shop in Central Phoenix, trying to reconcile the person I'd imagined with the reality in front of me. She was everything I'd expected and nothing I'd prepared for. Young, beautiful, devastated, holding baby Parker who looked exactly like Derek. But she wasn't the homewrecker I'd imagined. She was another victim. He told me he was divorced, she said through her tears. He said his ex-wife was bitter and made co-parenting difficult, but that the divorce had been final for over a year. More lies, layer upon layer of calculated deception that had hurt everyone involved. I thought we were planning a future together, she continued. I thought Parker was going to have a father who chose us. As Chloe and I talked, something unexpected happened. Instead of enemies, we became allies. 2 women who had been systematically deceived by the same man. 2 mothers trying to protect our children from his manipulation. And together, we were about to become Derek's worst nightmare. Because he'd made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated both of us. Derek came home that Tuesday evening to find Chloe, Parker, Willow, and me sitting in our living room like some twisted holiday gathering. He stopped in our doorway, his briefcase falling from his hand. What's going on? His voice was barely a whisper. Truth time, I said calmly. No more masks, no more Halloween costumes, just the real Derek. Willow was on our rug, absolutely delighted to be openly playing with Parker. She was showing him her toy horses, narrating everything like she was his personal tour guide. Chloe sat on our couch, still processing the scope of Derek's deception. We'd spent the afternoon comparing timelines, realizing how extensively we'd both been lied to, but what I found that night changed everything. Daddy! Willow looked up with pure excitement. Look! Parker's here, and he brought his favorite truck. Now we can all play together like I always wanted. Derek's face cycled through emotions: shock, panic, terror, and something that might have been relief that his juggling act was finally over. Harper, can we talk privately? No. Chloe spoke for the first time since he'd arrived. No more private conversations. No more secrets. No more lies. Derek collapsed into his recliner, the chair where he used to read Willow bedtime stories. He looked small in it now, diminished. How did you two? He gestured weakly between us. Meet? I finished. I told Chloe the truth. About our marriage. About Willow. About the 8 months of lies you've been telling both of us. She showed me your messages, Chloe added, her voice steady despite her tears. The ones where you called Parker and me your boys while lying to your wife every single day. My intuition was right, even if it hurt. Willow, oblivious to the adult tension, continued playing with Parker. Daddy, Parker can almost walk by himself. Watch! Derek's eyes filled with tears watching his son take wobbly steps across our living room. Princess, the grown-ups need to have a serious conversation, he said quietly. About your two families? The room went silent. Our 8-year-old daughter had just summarized Derek's double life with brutal honesty. Yes, baby. Are you sad because everyone knows the secret now? From that moment on, nothing felt the same. Chloe and I exchanged looks. Even our children understood the situation better than Derek seemed to. Derek, Chloe said quietly, I need you to explain something. You told me you were divorced. You let me plan a life with you. You let me name our son after you. When exactly were you planning to tell me the truth? Derek opened his mouth, then closed it. No words came. And you, Chloe turned to me. He told me you were bitter and vindictive, that you were making divorce proceedings difficult out of spite. All lies, I said simply. All lies, she agreed. I actually felt sorry for Derek, having to deal with such a difficult ex-wife. I was trying to protect everyone, Derek said desperately. I was trying to take care of both families without anyone getting hurt. But everyone did get hurt, Chloe said. Me, Harper, Willow, Parker. Everyone except you. I love both of you, Derek said, as if that explained anything. No, I said firmly. You don't love either of us. Love doesn't lie for 8 months. Love doesn't manipulate children. Love doesn't use one family's money to support another family in secret. And in that instant, my plan began to form. Derek looked at each of us in turn. His daughter, who had been forced to carry his lies. His son, who deserved better than a part-time father. Chloe, who had built her future on his deceptions. And me, his wife of 8 years, who had loved him completely while he loved neither of us honestly. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now, I said, you face the consequences. You tell the truth to everyone you've lied to. You stop using our children as pawns in your game. It looks like divorce, Chloe added, and honest co-parenting for both children. It looks like therapy, I continued, because healthy people don't live double lives for 8 months. And it looks like you learning that actions have consequences, Chloe finished. Derek was crying now, finally understanding that his house of cards hadn't just fallen. It had been systematically demolished by the 2 women he'd underestimated. But for the first time in 8 months, everyone in the room was telling the truth. And truth, even when it destroyed everything, felt like the beginning of something honest, something our children deserved. 7 months later, I'm sitting in my new townhouse in Tempe, watching Willow teach Parker how to stack blocks while Chloe makes us coffee. We're not a traditional family, but we're an honest one. Derek and I divorced quietly in March. We share custody of Willow, with strict conditions about involving her in future relationships. Chloe and Derek co-parent Parker, but she never took him back romantically. He sees both children regularly and pays appropriate child support. It's complicated, but it's real. And after 8 months of lies, real feels like coming up for air after nearly drowning. But what I found that night changed everything. Chloe and I have become best friends. We support each other through difficult days, share babysitting duties, and help our children navigate their complex family reality. You know what's funny? Chloe said last week while we watched the kids play at the park. I used to think you were my enemy, the bitter ex-wife trying to ruin Derek's happiness. And I thought you were the woman who destroyed my marriage. But we were both just women trying to love a man who didn't know how to love honestly. She was right. Derek loved us both, in his selfish way. But he loved us dishonestly, without understanding that real love requires courage. The courage to be truthful, to make difficult choices, to choose one life instead of trying to have everything. The hardest part wasn't losing Derek. The hardest part was forgiving myself for ignoring my intuition for so long. Never ignore what your heart tries to tell you. Looking back, I can see that my subconscious was screaming at me for months. The late-night phone calls he wouldn't take in front of me. The way he deflected when I asked about our future. The emotional distance he disguised as work stress. I knew. Some part of me always knew. But I chose to believe his lies because believing them was easier than facing the truth. My intuition was right, even if it hurt. Willow has thrived in our new normal. She no longer carries the weight of adult secrets, and she's blossomed into a confident child who understands that families can be complicated and still be full of love. "Mommy," she said recently while we carved pumpkins for this year's Halloween, "I'm glad we don't have secrets anymore." "Me too, baby." "And I'm glad Parker gets to be part of our family now, even if it's different than other families." Even if it's different, the wisdom of a 9-year-old who has learned that love comes in many forms, but honesty is always required. Derek has become a better father through this process. Being forced to be honest about his choices made him more intentional about his relationships with both children. He can't hide behind lies anymore, so he's learned to be present, accountable, consistent. He's also learned that fantasy lives come with real consequences. The double life he was trying to maintain cost him the authentic relationships he could have had. Neither Chloe nor I trusted him enough to build futures with him after his deception. From that moment on, nothing felt the same. As for me, I'm learning who I am outside of being someone's wife. I've discovered that I'm stronger than I thought, more resilient than I imagined, and worthy of love that doesn't require me to ignore obvious lies. My social media business has tripled since the divorce. I bought my own house, started a support network for women navigating deception, and I'm teaching Willow that love should feel safe, honest, and whole. Chloe is thriving too. She finished her certification program and started her own business. She's dating someone new, a man who knows her entire story and loves her for her truth, not despite it. And in that instant, my plan began to form, the plan that saved us all. The plan that prioritized children over adults, truth over comfort, reality over fantasy. If you're reading this and something feels wrong in your relationship, trust that feeling. If you're living with secrets that corrode your soul, find courage to speak truth. If you're accepting treatment that diminishes your worth, remember you deserve better. Your children are watching. They're learning what love looks like from your choices. Make sure you're teaching them that love is honest, respectful, and whole. Intuition is the truth we often silence. Self-love hurts at first, but it heals. Never ignore what your heart tries to tell you. These aren't just pretty words anymore. They're survival skills I learned by choosing truth over comfort. Halloween taught me that the real monsters don't wear costumes. They wear wedding rings and call their lies love. But the truth? The truth sets everyone free, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because honest love is the only kind worth having, and it's the only kind worth giving our children. Have you ever discovered something that changed everything? Share your story in the comments below. This Halloween season, we're sharing stories of women who found the courage to unmask the truth. Subscribe and join our community of women supporting women. Sometimes one story can save someone's entire life. Share this with someone who needs to hear it.